Hey guys, welcome back to Tales from the Dark Roast. This is going to be our third episode, and if you've listened, you've heard me mention before that I've had friends that have started ghost hunting groups or been involved with ghost hunting groups. So today I'm going to bring him on so he can tell his story. Again, this is a podcast for people to tell their story in a comfortable, casual environment, no judgment, just to get their story out there. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce my friend Jason Betts.
How you doing?
Doing well, man. It's been a while. How you been?
I'm hanging in there, man. Just trying to make it through every day.
Yeah, I hear that.
How about you?
Same. Lots of coffee, trying to rest as I can. So,
Yep. There you go.
all
Thanks for
right.
having me. Appreciate it.
No problem, man. You've had some really interesting stuff. Earlier when we were talking, you had said that you had experiences starting back from your childhood.
Yeah, I wasn't directly involved. I found out about this as I got older. When I was about 6.5 years old, my family moved into the house that they're still in now, almost 30 some odd years later. And we knew the house was old when we got it. We thought that the original foundation and original rooms had been built in the 1920s.
Oh, wow.
Out to be even older than that. The foundation and original rooms was actually built in 1911. So there's a lot of history in this building, just by itself. A lot of owners throughout time. Well, the owners before us were a couple that got married very, very late in life, like both in their 80s. And they weren't around too much longer after that. I believe the gentleman passed away first, and then the wife passed away within a couple of months. And not long after that, my family and I moved in. So my bedroom was actually had been their master bedroom. So late at night, after my sister and I had gone back to sleep, my folks would turn off the TV and hear what sounded like whispering coming from my room. Or, like a conversation that you can catch the just like that. And I was 6.5 at the time. I didn't have a TV or a radio in my room. And so they'd very quietly, hearing it the whole time, go to my bedroom, and just as they cracked the door open to check on me, it would stop. And this went on infrequently, I believe, over the first 2 years we were in the house. And then all of a sudden it stopped. So when my folks learned a little bit more about the Baxters, the people that lived there before us, we got to thinking, the bedroom is where couples talk to each other at night. We thought maybe it was the Baxters trying to decide whether they wanted us in their house or not. And I guess after time, we think that they decided that we were okay. They didn't mind us living in their house. And then they went off to go see what was next, I guess.
Wow. So your parents were they on board with the idea that there might be ghosts in the home?
They, my mother has been a believer ever since she was a young child. My dad, more on the skeptical side. Um, but they both heard it, they both experienced it together, and couldn't come up with any other explanation. So that's kind of a family history, a family story there that we tell if we've got any paranormal experiences on our own.
Wow, that's really cool. Now, did you ever hear the whispering, or was it always something that occurred after you were asleep?
It was after I was asleep. I never experienced this. Um, I certainly wanted to. I mean, I've been a believer because of my mom. I was raised on this stuff. I've been a believer my whole life, and I was the kind of guy that wanted something to happen, but unfortunately, it never really did.
Well, you and I are in the same boat because that's pretty much why I started the podcast.
Hmm.
I have always wanted to have an experience, no matter what it was, and I've never had one. So bringing friends and family members on that have had those kind of experiences gives me a chance to kind of live vicariously through their story. So, and that belief that your mom kind of instilled with you, and then the experiences that she had with you guys growing up, I guess that led you to further in, investigate the paranormal, and you actually joined a group back home in Panama City, the Panhandle Paranormal Investigations.
Yeah, yeah. My buddy and I, my buddy Skip and I, we started one Panhandle Paranormal Investigations, not realizing that there was another Panhandle Paranormal Investigation started by Megan Humphreys. So instead of competing against each other, we met and decided, hey, why don't we join forces and form one big team? And so about, I think, 2009, 2010, somewhere in there, that's exactly what we ended up doing.
Megan Humphreys, that name sounds super familiar. Is that someone we went to school with, or was she a little bit
Oh,
older than us?
yeah, she's a couple years older, but she and her family, I believe, lived north of Bay County,
Okay.
so they
That's
weren't exactly locals.
gotcha. It was a That's a super familiar name to me. So,
You may have heard about it in talking with other folks about ghost hunting teams. She's been doing it for a couple decades now.
oh wow, yeah, because I know a couple other guys back home that have been in groups, and I think specifically the Panhandle group that you were part of. Um, Now I know that COVID kind of slowed everything down, and you guys haven't been able to go on as many investigations. But how many investigations would you say since the group started that you guys have done?
Oh gosh, I in my time with the group, I probably went on about 15 to 20.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
So
For there, we were getting some. We could easily go out every other weekend for a little while there. I mean, we were getting tons of requests to come out and check them out. These would be during the day, during the week, weekends. Weekends were a big one because that was when majority of the people were free. So
right, they could make alternate plans while you guys
uh,
were in the home.
yeah, exactly. And uh, and yeah, so for a good couple years there, I was we were going out I'd say at least once a month. And then the night and that's just the ones I was able to attend. They would go out probably every 2 weeks or maybe even every week there for a little while.
So we're looking anywhere between like we'll say low end like 35, high end 50 to 60 a year just as the group in general.
Yep, that's a pretty fair estimate for how busy they were.
Now, and that's huge because I don't know if anyone knows much about Panama City, but it has grown, but it is still a small town.
Oh, and we traveled all over the place. I mean, we would travel all over the Panhandle, sometimes maybe even into lower Alabama, lower Georgia. We went over to Pensacola several times. There's a lot of old homes and old businesses over there. So, but yeah, we jump in, load up our gear in Megan's expedition, and hightail it to wherever we needed to go.
Oh man, that's awesome. I really wish that I had been in town for that because that's something I would have jumped on just wholeheartedly gotten into with you guys, but I was down here in Tampa, so
Hey, it's all right.
but well, let's get into I I kind of asked you already like to have something in mind. So tell me tell me about any of the like the good experiences that you've had. Just, something that like really caught your attention or, made you a believer, I guess.
All right. Let me preface this by saying, remember when I said that I was always one that wanted something to happen? Well, unfortunately, I turned out to be the least sensitive of the entire group. So as much as I wanted stuff to happen to me, I was the one that was least likely to have something happen to them. So that was a little frustrating. But occasionally, I was able. I'll tell you about two specifically. One was actually in an old theater in Monticello. We had actually teamed up with another local team to investigate, and another member of the team, of the other team, and I were in the dark. We're in the we're in the theater, and we're doing an EVP session. You know, we've got our digital recorders set up and our instruments to see if anything's going to happen. We're asking our questions, and I don't remember what question I asked specifically, but there was a growl just completely out of nowhere. And I turned to the girl on the other team, and she looked at me, and we both did a, "Did you hear that?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "What did that sound like to you?" She said, "Sounded like a growl." It's like, okay, all right. So we noted the time, and we're to where we could go back and listen to it on the recorder. And another few minutes goes by. I think we asked a few more questions, and very clear, it was a.
And so you guys heard it when it happened, and then it was also backed up on the recorder?
We heard it twice,
Oh,
as and if memory serves, I think we only caught the first one, and it was kind of faint, but you could tell it was something not just interference or static on the recording. So that was the first. That was the first time really that. And we looked all around us to see. You know what? It had almost sounded like. It almost sounded like a cell phone that's been set to vibrate, that's been placed on a hard, flat surface. You know that kind of vibrating type sound and noise.
oh yeah, I know exactly
Uh,
what you're talking about.
that's what it sounded like. So we're checking our phones, we're checking all of our equipment, and we couldn't debunk it. That's the first thing we try to do to find explanation for it. We're not one of these groups that just says everything's haunted. No, we try and do what the TAPS guys do, and debunk anything that we're able to debunk. We couldn't figure out where that was coming from, and we did catch a little recording of that. So the second one, there it was a very large old house in Pensacola, and we were basically given free reign. I mean, there were, God, 10 bedrooms, 4 or 5 bathrooms, a big room with a view of the entire city. I mean, this place was huge. But in one room, where there were our instruments were going crazy. People were having personal experiences, seeing shadows, stuff like that. So we all gather in one room, and we had, I think, our infrared on our cameras, and we've got it pointed into the room. There was a small mirror on the other wall facing us. So we made sure to we say, okay, we're not the ones that are reflecting in this mirror, right? Everyone's out of the way. But we're seeing activity in the infrared camera in this mirror that we couldn't explain. I actually thought it was somebody messing around, and I'm telling my buddy Skip, who was on the team with us, I'm saying, "Skip, knock it off." He's like, "Dude, I'm not doing anything." He's like, Is anyone else moving around or flailing their arms or whatever?" They're like, "No, none of us is doing anything." So through an infrared camera, there was something going on in that mirror that we couldn't fully explain. Those are the things that happened to me directly.
Okay.
Um, there was tons of stuff where we going back through the evidence that we recorded. we were able to find EVPs and even a couple of photographs that we couldn't recreate what we found, what we captured.
So every time you went out, you maybe took a lot of photos, a lot of video recordings, but you didn't always find anything? Were there a lot of
Yeah,
like dead sessions almost?
unfortunately, yeah, that is part of it. When you watch a show like Ghost Hunters and whatnot, they're probably not necessarily going to broadcast cases where nothing happens. Where there's nothing to tell the people that they're going to help. And unfortunately, those are just a fact of ghost hunting. Those are going to happen. And yeah, there would be times we'd catch some stuff, but sometimes there would just be, sorry, we didn't catch anything. Nothing on the cameras, nothing on the digital recorders, nothing on the infrared, or no personal experiences, or it was personal experiences only that we couldn't back up with evidence.
Gotcha. But I'm guessing though that you guys still were able to at least help a lot of people, put a lot of people's minds at rest.
Yeah, with going into the debunking, I mean, there was one case where I was using an EMF meter, which measures electronic fields, right?
Right.
And I went past a door, and the EMF meter went absolutely crazy. I mean, off the scale. And I said, "What's behind this door?" And they go, "The air conditioner." And I go, wall, door, wall, checked, and the meter would always go crazy in front of that door. So that energy source that air conditioner was plugged into was not shielded and was sending out a lot of, you know, electromagnetic.
And
Now,
that can mess with people in large
it
doses over extended periods of time. Excuse me.
exactly, yeah, feelings of being watched. It can have a physical effect on you, give you a nausea, or any number of things. So it would often be what we were able to debunk and say, hey, listen, this is what's causing this. Having them feel better about that, knowing that we helped them, that would really be the goal, to help them in any way that we could.
And see, that's awesome. That's the kind of stuff I appreciate because, like you've mentioned, there are a lot of shows on TV, and these guys just go gung ho in. Everything's a spirit. Everything's trying to talk to them. They don't ever spend any time, trying to debunk stuff. Or, oh, you're hearing this clacking noise. Well, maybe it's an unsecured pipe on the bottom of the house, or maybe
Right.
it's a roof tile. So to hear that you guys were doing that, that actually makes me really happy.
And it would be a bummer too, because sometimes we would get something and we're all like, one of the meters that lights up when it's in the presence of specific types of energy. Um, it was going off seemingly at random, and we're all gathered around it and we're saying, oh my gosh, is this something? And for several minutes we thought we had something, until we realized, ah, damn it, it's reacting to one of our phones. So that would be a bummer. We're like, okay, well, that's something else that's not paranormal in nature, but
Got
yeah,
your hopes up.
right, yeah, it got our hopes up pretty high, and then when it came down, it's like, okay, well, I was hoping that was something, but say la vie.
Yeah. That's still really cool though, man, that you've at least had a couple of experiences. You've been there when other people have had experiences, and um, that you've been able to at least document some of this. Now, I'm curious more specifically about what kind of equipment that you guys did bring with you and that you used. So you've already mentioned the EVP and the EMF and basically like a thermal imager. What
Mm.
else did you guys carry?
Oh, well, a lot of cameras, a lot of flashlights. We had a lot of flashlights. Sometimes we'd have them strapped to our heads, but those would we would experiment with static boxes, you know, to see if we could get any voice or something to come through there. Um, but those were primarily a majority of the tools we use. I mean, shoot, we would even break out the dowsing rods to
Oh,
see if any kind of reaction to there. So we used a lot. But I often found that the old standbys of the digital recorder and a camera to be my preferred equipment.
that's cool because I've always kind of had an issue with the EMF meters, just because I'm not trained with them, so not having that training, and they are a tool used to detect electricity and other signals, but at the same time, like you mentioned, you've got AC units. I mean, a home has conduits running all through the walls, so I've always just worried that you get those false positives.
Yeah, especially if it's an old home where stuff may not necessarily be up to code.
Hmm.
It'll catch that, and that's really just part of the debunking process, you know. But it's when these things go off and we cannot find any explanation for it, that's when we'll pay attention, maybe even bring in some other equipment to see if it will react, or to gather up some of the more sensitive members of the group and see if they feel or sense anything. So, yeah, when we debunk, but it's when we can't debunk that things start to get a little bit more interesting, and we'll try and recreate what's going on here.
Gotcha. So an all hands on deck moment, like, hey, bring your gear, bring this, bring so and so, because they feel things.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. And then um, the other thing that you mentioned, and I kind of liked this, was the static box, because
Mm-hmm.
I've seen where people now they have like spirit box apps which randomly,
Yeah.
and I don't like those because you're using words and it's an app on your phone. There's no, like, to me, the newer technology gets, to me, the less interaction, at least in my opinion, spirits are going to have, or some sort of entity is going to have. So to me, I'd rather like just a static noise, something that just makes static, and to see if anything comes through in the static.
Yeah, we did that a number of times. We did use the apps. We wouldn't necessarily say that just because something happened on the app, then that meant it was 100% paranormal. There
Right.
would be that would happen with the apps, and we're like, that's strange. And then we'll gather up everybody else, maybe some other pieces of equipment, maybe some other people, and say, hey guys, check in this area, see if you feel anything, or put this piece of equipment here, and we'll try and get other pieces of equipment or other people to react in the same way that the app reacted in. I'll tell you a little story using one of the apps, the voice box app. It would depending on where you were, I mean, a lot of times nothing would happen, but sometimes it would shout out a word that it thinks it heard. You
Oh,
know, that we can't hear. It's going to try and pick it up on its own, and it would be one word at a time. Random word. It could be doorknob or chair or something innocuous like that. But we're in a graveyard, and it all of a sudden spurts out found you.
yeah. No, no. I'm gonna go ahead and just go back to the car. You guys let me know when things are normal.
That like we looked at each other and said, "Do you ever remember this thing saying more than one word at a time, saying a phrase like that?" And we're like, "No, it's only been one word at a time." So that's when we started gathering everybody else up. And one time it said the word finger as we were passing by a gravestone that had what looked like a child's hand with the finger pointed. Coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. We still thought it was interesting and worth checking out. So, so we would use a as kind of a starting point. We wouldn't base our entire investigation on using just those apps. Like the static box, we started using to see if we could hear anything coming through. The EMF meters, the ones that lit up, kind of in a cascading motion. There's another name for it. It's escaping me right now, right when I need to tell you about it.
I think I
But
know which one you're talking about.
uh,
It looks like something almost out of like Ghostbusters. Um,
it's actually kind of small. It's about that big, and it's got lights at the end. And those would be good to use parallel during with a digital recorder for an EVP session. Because if it starts to light up and maybe it starts to react to questions, yes or no questions, that's interesting.
okay. Well, that's so that gives me a little bit more hope for the Spirit Box apps because, like I said, I don't have any personal experience with them. It's just in my research and watching other people use them and videos that you can find all over the internet. It just always seemed like those were you know little little hokey, a little like just aiming to get people into stuff without
I,
actually providing.
I can certainly respect that. And it is just an app on the phone. Um, and if you turn it on and nothing happens, nothing happens. But if something happens, maybe that is lets you know where a good starting point would be to bring in the other um, proper pieces of equipment. Maybe set up here, do your EVP session here, see if you catch anything. It shouldn't be, oh my God, it said something, so this is haunted. No, no, it's just one of many tools you can use, and I recommend using it as a starting point if you're going to use it at all.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Use it to get your bearings where you might want to set up, and then bring in better, more specialized equipment and people uh,
Mhm.
to collaborate what it's saying and see what you can get from there.
Absolutely.
See, I like that you're doing that, and you're not just going willy nilly into everything's a ghost, everything is haunted.
Do anybody good? Um, it's not going to do us any good because we can prove that it's not. But if we say that it is after we prove that it's not, then what does that say about our group? We're out for attention. We're not out to help these people that have called us for questions and answers. So
Gotcha, man.
you know,
Well, let's. I got a couple more questions here. One, so it's Panhandle Paranormal Investigations.
yeah,
If someone wanted to reach out to them for some assistance up in the Panhandle of Florida, where would they go to do that?
I believe their website is still up. Panhandle Paranormal Investigations, or the acronym that we use is PPI.
Okay,
Um, the website, I'm pretty sure is still up. I don't think Megan would have let that fall by the wayside. And like I said, they're still going out. It's just very limited now because of COVID and work schedules and things like that. But you look up Panhandle Paranormal Investigation and Megan Humphreys, and you'll be directed to the right place.
gotcha. Do they have a Facebook?
It's been so long. I think they did. I don't know if they still do. It's all you got to do is give it a shot in the search bar, though.
All right, man. Well, that's awesome. And so, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna wrap some stuff. I'm gonna wrap this up, but I've got 10 questions for you that I want
Oh,
to ask you. And these are
yeah,
going to be my 'cause I've got a number of people that are all involved in ghost hunting, so these are going to be my 10 questions for ghost hunters. um, very James Lipton, a la the actor studio, because I love that guy.
fantastic.
So let's go with question number one. What has been your favorite place to hunt ghosts?
Oh, God, what was it called? It was the huge ironworks in Birmingham. Oh, God, what was it? The name is escaping me. I'm gonna kick myself, and Megan's gonna hurt me for not remembering this. But a huge uh ironwork facility in Birmingham, really really old, turn of the century. God, are you looking it up there?
I am trying to look it up right now.
Sloss, Sloss Furnace.
Wow. There's actually a huge music festival that goes on there every year that's actually just happened this past weekend. I know
Oh,
exactly where that's at.
okay, yeah, Sloss Furnace. It was just this monstrous facility, and it's been around forever. And you just look at the turn of the century stuff, and you go in, and there are wrenches that are bigger than your body, and just it really can be a maze. I mean, there are a lot of twists and turns and ups and downs and getting lost. So we had to spread out. We brought every member of our team. I think we brought 10 to 12 people on that one. There were still probably areas that we didn't get to cover, but there were some. That was one of our first really big trips as a joined team, and so yeah, that was a favorite. Oh gosh.
All right. Well, let's go to the
Yeah.
next one.
Oh,
What has been your least favorite place to hunt ghosts?
remember that big house I was telling you about where we had the activity with the mirror?
Hmm.
Okay, well, yeah, it was a big, old, gorgeous house that I absolutely fell in love with, but the owners had let it go completely. Cats had completely overrun the entire house. And I'm not that guy, and I'm allergic to them, and it was just it I was so unhappy being there because I saw this gorgeous house and it was just completely overrun with cats, and the owners let it happen. So that was so disheartening that I didn't enjoy the rest of that investigation.
Oh, yeah. I'm allergic to cats, so I'm right there with you.
Yeah, yeah, it was just not fun. That one.
All right. So go on to the third question here. What is your favorite piece of equipment?
Just a little digital recorder. I'm big on my favorite thing to try and capture is EVPs.
All right. And what is your least favorite piece of equipment?
Well, I can't really say if I've got a least favorite. There would be some that are just bulky and hard to handle, but no, I can't really say I've got a least favorite piece of equipment. No.
Okay. So then, kind of segueing into that, is there any piece of equipment you feel that may not work or gives a lot of false positives?
Well, we were talking about the voice box apps on the phone, and I think it'd be foolish to base everything solely on what happens on an app on your phone. May it be a useful tool as a starting off point? Absolutely. But it is not the end all be all. That is a starting point, but that is far from the only thing available to you out there.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. All right. And next, has there ever been a time when you felt unsafe while ghost hunting?
Believe it or not, yes. Remember when I told you that I am the least sensitive member of the group? Well, the people who were sensitive would say, "Oh, I feel this feeling in the pit of my stomach," or they would have all of these physical reactions to what was going around at the time, and I would be I wouldn't experience any of it. Well, one time we were actually investigating the Martin Theater here in downtown Panama City, and I went into the green room, which is off stage right, and it's a place I've been dozens of times in my theatrical career. Well, for some reason, I just got an overwhelming sense of dread and anxiety come over me. Enough for me to leave the room and go find my buddy Skip. And I said, "This is what just happened to me." And he gave me a strange look and he goes, "That kind of thing doesn't happen to you." I said, "Yeah, I know." So so that was the only time I felt that something was wrong and I needed to get out of there. We still investigated, I went back in there, but yeah, I'd say that was pretty much the only time I felt that something was wrong and I needed to get out of there.
Wow, so I know exactly what room you're talking about because I've been there as well. But
Yes,
there
sir.
were, close to a couple hundred people in the building at the time, so no creeping me out in that room. So
Right.
wow, that's really cool though because I know that place, and now if I ever get a chance to go back, I'm gonna have to see if I can get in there and see if there's anything that bothers me. So
Oh,
all right, so next one. These are the fun ones. If you could capture evidence of one person's ghost, who would it be?
oh my goodness.
I'm gonna give you a second to think about that. I'm gonna pour some more of my French press coffee. And it could be a famous person. It could be a family member. The only prerequisite is that they are currently deceased.
I probably, yeah, I think my grandparents. Yeah, my grandmother, my mom's mom, we lost her in 2013, and she was a huge antique person. She passed it down to my mom, who's a huge antique person. I'm an antique person. And my mom, for a little bit there, with her partner from work, actually had their own antique store in downtown Panama City, Belmar Antiques. And we got the chance to go in and investigate. And we were doing an EVP session. People were having personal experiences, and the instruments were lighting up, you know. And I just asked, "Grandma, is that you?" And didn't get a positive or negative response. I don't think I got a response at all. But first person that comes to mind would probably be my maternal grandmother.
Oh, that's a deep one right there. I was expecting something almost kind of funny or goofy, but serious is no. That's
Well,
awesome.
I'm serious on these next couple.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know if you're gonna do. All right. So the next one is, who was the one person you would bring with you on a ghost hunt?
My mom.
You think she'd have fun on that?
I think she would. Yeah, I think she watched the ghost hunters, and like I said, she's been into this stuff, the paranormal, the unexplained, all her life. It rubbed off on me. So anyone that we didn't already include in our group in investigations, yeah, I'd bring my mom, and then I'd bring you.
Hey, I would love that because I'm still waiting to have that experience. All right, and last one. When you do pass on from this life, do you
Mhm.
plan on trying to haunt anyone or any place?
Oh, well, what I plan on haunting? Sure, but I've got a sneaking suspicion that it's not going to be up to me.
Gotcha. So you may not get the choice, but if you do get the choice, say you get to the pearly gates or whatever there is in the next life, and they say, "Hey, you can enter the gates, collect your reward, or you can go back to Earth and hang out wherever you want." Where would you go if you could hang out?
Oh man, probably the Boy Scout camp that I grew up with. Watching all the new generations of scouts come through, starting from when they're young and then maybe bringing their kids there when they get older or grandkids. I think that's a very special place to me, my camp, Spanish Trail Scout Reservation in Defuniak Springs, Florida. I first went there in 1994, and I've just been in love with it ever since. So I think probably there.
All right. Well, if you pass before me and I can still be mobile and get out, I'm gonna go check and
All
see
right.
if you're wandering around.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, man. Well, my guest has been Jason Betts from Panama City and associated with the Panhandle Paranormal Investigations. Again, Jason, thank you very much for coming on, man.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Awesome, man. Well, maybe we'll see about getting some more people from the group on, and maybe see if we can do like a group session at some point, and get a whole bunch of people on talking about their experiences.
We'll see if we can't make that happen, all right?
Awesome, man. All right. Well, again, I appreciate it, and you have a good evening. All right.
You take care, man.
All right. All right, guys. Thank you again for listening to this episode of Tales from the Dark Roast. Again, I'm Mortimer James. Remember, keep your coffee mugs full and your stories dark because I want to hear them.